Nobody cares how beautiful your lampshade is if it doesn't turn on when you turn it on. And in our lives, we focus so much on that external decoration. What do I look like? How expensive are my clothes? How expensive is my handbag? My shoes? How do I match my hair, my this, my that? And we forget to actually ask ourselves, but am I plugged in? Am I connected? Is that source of divine energy flowing through me or not? Because if not, it doesn't matter how beautiful I may be. I'm not actually going to be able to bring forth into the world that which I am meant to, that which I am here for. It's such a beautiful lesson, actually, about life. Such a beautiful lesson because we forget the most important thing, just connection. This microphone or the other one or any of them could be the most fancy, expensive, diamond covered, gold covered piece of machinery. But if it isn't actually connected to the source of electricity through which it's going to come through the speakers, it's useless. Doesn't matter how beautiful it may look, doesn't matter how fancy it may be. What matters much more is that it's connected. We began with the lapel one, the fancy one, the professional expensive one. Didn't work, not connected. Couldn't hear a word I was saying. We then shift back to your more standard one. Just this piece that I'll hold in my hands, but it works. And you actually can hear me. And it's a great lesson about life because a lot of times we focus on the form, the decoration of form. And we forget that actually that which we are able to bring to the world is a product of how connected we are, how connected we are to the divine, how connected we are to that source. So I'm appreciative that we had this opportunity to relearn this lesson, that it's not about what it looks like, it's about how connected it is. The most beautiful lamp in the world, gold covered, diamond covered lampshades. If the lamp isn't plugged into the wall and therefore can't give you any light, it's useless. Nobody cares how beautiful your lampshade is if it doesn't turn on when you turn it on. And in our lives, we focus so much on that external decoration. What do I look like? How expensive are my clothes? How expensive is my handbag? My shoes? How do I match my hair, my this, my that? And we forget to actually ask ourselves, but am I plugged in? Am I connected? Is that source of divine energy flowing through me or not? Because if not, it doesn't matter how beautiful I may be. I'm not actually going to be able to bring forth into the world that which I am meant to, that which I am here for. And on the other hand, I may be not decorated at all. I may be very simple in my clothes, in my possessions, in my attire, in my grooming, in my lifestyle, but be very connected and therefore be able to bring that power. We would all much rather have a light bulb, just a bare, simple light bulb, no nice lampshade at all, that's actually plugged in and able to give us light, than the most beautifully decorated lamp that's not plugged in with no electricity flowing through it. So it's a great reminder to stay focused on making sure we are connected and plugged in to that divine source, whatever that may mean for us. We may connect with God by a specific name, a specific form, and a specific religion, a specific lineage or way. Or we may not. We may connect with spirit, source, consciousness, divinity by no name or no form. It doesn't matter. But that supreme source of all energy, that supreme source of all creation, that's what we need to connect to. So thanks to the tech team for reminding us that functionality, connection is much more important than how fancy or professional something might actually look. And I'm so happy to be with you. As Nilima ji said, we've got two beautiful, beautiful groups here. We have our Shakti Kumbh, wonderful, dynamic, Shakti-filled group. And we have our students from all over the world who are studying here in India and have come to Rishikesh to spend a few days to actually be able to see India. But what I love so much about that is they've been brought to a place where what they see is inside yourself. I've always said I've been here now 26 and a half years, and I always say you cannot see India the way that you see other countries in the world. If you wanted to go to Europe, you wanted to go to France or Italy or England or anywhere, you could actually make a list of the things you wanted to see, the sights you wanted to see. And you could go and you could see them. Historic buildings, beautiful places. And you could check them off your list one by one and say, okay, Paris, check. Athens, check. Rome, check. Because you've done it. You've seen them. You've seen the buildings. You've eaten gelato. You've had a cappuccino on the Champs-Élysées. Like, check, 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 done it. But India is a place where it's not actually about the outer things that we see. It's actually about the way that India transforms us on the inside. And the only way to actually see India is to let India inside of you. And it's going to get in whether you like it or not. Right? All of you here from so many countries around the world. Has anyone yet had an experience of India getting inside you in a way where suddenly you find yourself acting in a way, speaking in a way that you think, my God, who is that person? Right? Yes, yes. Raise your hand if you've had that experience yet. And then raise your hand if you've had an experience where India has gotten inside you in the opposite, the most divine way, where you think, wow, I never knew that I was capable of having that type of experience. Has anyone had one of those yet? All right, a handful of you. Well, you'll have it, I promise. India's a place it gets inside. And it shows you, sometimes in very, very quick, rapid succession, the very worst of yourself and the very best of yourself. And so India is an experience where I know for me, I found myself 1 minute in divine ecstasy, connected to the divine in such a way that I never would have imagined. And then half an hour, 45 minutes later, frustrated, furious, shouting at something, someone. Not recently, thankfully, 26 years has sort of smoothed that out, but a lot in the beginning, where it was this constant kind of back and forth. And what I realized was what India was doing was pulling up from within me the very truth of myself, both all of the struggles that I had, the challenges, the illusions, the ignorance, the ego, the attachments. And it was shoving them in my face. Oh, you've got an attachment to people telling you the truth? All right, well, we're just going to throw you in the middle of a world where you can't actually believe anything that anybody tells you. Not that they don't mean it, they do. But I remember, for example, in the beginning, you'd have, a leaky faucet, and the plumber was going to come and fix your leaky faucet, and he was going to be there at 2:00 in the afternoon. 2 would come and go. 3 would come and go. 4 would come and go. 5 and 6 would come and go. 7:00, the plumber shows up. You are irate. You've spent the whole day waiting in your hotel room for this guy to show up. His perspective is, well, I'm here now. What's the problem? But you said, but I'm here. But you said, but ma'am, I'm here now. But, and you realize you actually have a choice, which is to hold on to the way that you think things are supposed to be, or to actually find peace in the moment. Those are your only options. And so India offers us this beautiful opportunity to really, really let go of all of the ways that we are so attached to who we think we are, how we think the universe operates, what we think our role in the universe is, to let go of that and to actually dive into an experience of being one with the divine, of being one with sacred and holy energies, of being one with a culture, a tradition that is not just old or ancient, but that is actually timeless, eternal. When we say Sanatan, in Sanatan Dharma, it's eternal. And to actually dive into that. So it's not just Bharat Kodeke, it's Swayam Kodeke. By looking at India, by seeing India, we actually have the opportunity to see ourselves. So, this time that we have today is what we call satsang. Now, the word satsang, the Sanskrit word satsang, literally means in the association of truth, in the presence of truth. It's not a lecture, it's not a course on a specific subject. It's us together diving into what I call the capital T truth. There's the lowercase t truth, which is it's Friday, Saturday, whatever day it actually is. It's the 24th. It's about noon. We're in Rishikesh. That's true. It's not a lie. But it's a lowercase t truth because it only pertains to this particular minuscule, fleeting intersection of time and space. Pick up the phone right now and call your friends in California. So it's still the 23rd for them. It's a day earlier. It's middle of the night. Pick up the phone, call your friends in Australia. It's sunset. So even at this moment, it's not true for anyone anywhere else. And for us, in just a little while, it no longer will be true anyway. It'll go from being around 12 to being around 1 to being around 2. Then the date will change. So that's what we call lowercase t truth. The capital T truth is that which is unchanging, which is eternal, which is who we are. So that's what satsang is it's about diving into that. And before we get into questions, because that's where we'll go, I'll open it up for questions, whatever questions anyone has. But before we do that, I wanted to just talk about a couple of things that arose for me last night as we sat together here with our Shakti Kum family. There were some thoughts that I had as I walked out, as I was sitting in meditation in the evening last night, about things we had spoken about. The first was, we spoke last night a lot about karma and about the interweaving threads of karma and about how do we know about destiny and fate and why do things happen? And the sister with whom I was sitting, Anuradha was her name. Anuradha Rameshji, who I was sitting with last night, was saying basically, you may not be able to know why something is happening in your life, but you can be sure that if it's there, you created it. If there's a tree in your life, you've planted the seed, like the analogy I gave last night. If you've got an apple tree in your life, you can be sure you planted an apple seed. But it's important to realize that the universe does not think in terms of rewards and punishments. It's not a matter of, oh, you're rich in this lifetime. You must have done something really good in last life to be rewarded in this life. Or, oh, you're poor, or you're failing at something, or you've got a terminal illness. Oh, this must be a punishment for something bad you did. No. There's no sense of rewards and punishments. The universe does not have any objective labels that say success, wealth, health, these are good. Failure, poverty, illness, these are bad. These are labels we've put on them. But the universe doesn't have any preference. what we are experiencing in our life is what we are experiencing because a past action that weaving together with other karmic threads has created this moment. And because whatever we are experiencing is actually the most conducive experience for our own spiritual awakening. There's a great story from our scriptures. I know you were with Dina earlier today, and I assume she was speaking to you about Sita and the Ramayana. So let's go back to the Ramayana for a moment, because there's actually a beautiful story there that illustrates this point so well. If you walk out of this hall and you walk into the gardens of Parmarth, where we have all of the different statues, one of the statues is of a man who's got what looks like a balance, like a weight balance. You know, the way they used to sell fruits or vegetables at a grocery store and see how much it weighs. He looks like he's carrying one of those on his shoulder. And that's a statue of Shravan Kumar, who was a young man whose parents were blind. And he was taking his parents on a sacred pilgrimage, because in the Hindu tradition, like so many world traditions, going on a holy pilgrimage is considered a duty of people who are devout. It's considered a very great blessing to be able to go to the holy places. So Shravan Kumar was taking his parents on pilgrimage because since they were blind, they couldn't walk themselves. So he was carrying them. They stop in a dharamshala. He leaves his parents in the dharamshala. He goes down to the river to get water for them. He's collecting the water in a bucket for them. Now, flash for a moment to another simultaneous happening. We have a king, King Dashrath, a good man, a good king, unable to have offspring. It's creating, as you can imagine, turmoil. He's a king who's going to carry on the lineage and the kingdom. He's out in the same jungle, hunting, flings the arrow from his bow, and he hears a noise in the bushes. He thinks he's got himself a deer. He rushes over and he sees that his arrow has hit Shravan Kumar, who was collecting water. He feels horrible, of course, as you can imagine. Shravan Kumar says, "There's nothing that can be done for me. My lifeblood is flowing out of me. But take care of my parents, please. They are blind. They are in this dharamshala. They are waiting for me. Please go. Tell them what has happened. Bring them the water. Take care of them." Now you can imagine what this king must be feeling as he goes into this dharamshala to have to tell these parents that he's just killed their son. He walks in. They hear the noise. They say, "Shravan Kumar, Shravan Kumar." With a very, very heavy heart, he tells them what has happened. And these parents, because in Hinduism it is believed that if your heart is pure, you have the power to bless and also to curse. That it's not just wizards or mystics or those with great powers, but a pure heart is considered the greatest power. And so his parents, with their pure heart, have the power to bless and the power to curse. And they curse King Dashrath that just as we are dying of a broken heart from the loss of our son, so you will die of a broken heart from the loss of your son. Now he has no son. But that which they have spoken now has to come true. Now you see how these threads of karma weave together. We'll fast forward. It's a long story. It's the whole Ramayana. But eventually, King Dashrath has offspring. One of them is Bhagwan Ram, who you know about or you've heard about when we were listening to Dina speak about Sita. The embodiment of the divine. As he fast forward a few decades, on the day that he, this embodiment, this divine embodiment of righteousness, integrity, aside from being divine, aside from being the incarnation of Vishnu, aside from being a manifestation of the divine, he's also just the embodiment of what we call the perfect husband, son, father, brother. The day he's going to be coronated, what happens? He gets exiled, sent off into the forest. His stepmother was owed a couple of promises from the king. She decides to cash them in that day. Do not coronate Ram, coronate instead the boy who came from my womb, Bharat. And send Ram out of the kingdom. Now, you imagine, and this is something that comes up all the time, that people ask all the time. How could this embodiment of goodness, this embodiment of integrity, this embodiment of divinity, the one we all seek to emulate, Unhone kya kiya? What has he done to deserve being sent off into the forest for 14 years? To deserve not being coronated as king? Well, this is where karmic threads weave together, because remember, his father had to die from a broken heart at the loss of his son. That was the curse given. Lord Ram gets sent off. The journey, the divine journey begins. The conquering of evil by good. But as he goes off with Sita Ma, with his brother Lakshman, as Dashrath is dying quite literally of a broken heart, what does he call out in the final moments of his life? Shravan Kumar. Shravan Kumar. Now, no one else knew this story. No one else knew what had happened to him those decades earlier. And I love this story because it's such a perfect example. When we say, why do bad things happen to good people? What did this one do to deserve it? What did I do to deserve it? Well, we're not really looking at karma in its fullness. Karma is a tapestry of the way that our threads are woven together. The threads of Shravan Kumar, the threads of his parents, the threads of King Dashrath, the threads of Bhagwan Ram, the threads of Sita, of Ravan, all of these threads, how they weave together to create the necessity for that moment in which this embodiment of goodness becomes essentially what you could call the victim of an atrocity, the victim of injustice. How dare they not coronate him? How dare they subject him to such injustice? Because it's a karmic tapestry. And the only way to understand that moment is by understanding the tapestry. So when we think about karma in our lives, it's really important to take a big step back and to realize that there are so many threads we may not be able to see. And it's not just about how can I figure out in my individual thread of these years that I remember of my life, the answer may not be there. And that's where surrender and faith and divine connection are so important, because when we can't understand things, when we can't see the full tapestry, Bhagwan Ram didn't know about the Shravan Kumar situation. Sita Ma, Lakshman, they didn't know what had happened. They didn't know the bigger picture. They just knew this is what's happening now. But how did they take it? With such surrender and such faith in what I call the wisdom of the universe. That wisdom of the universe through which a seed sprouts into a tree, a flower blossoms, a caterpillar becomes a butterfly. So when you can't see the full tapestry in your life, that's when surrender and faith is really important. The other piece I wanted to just speak briefly about from last night was trauma. Nilima had asked about trauma and the way that we carry trauma. Ancestral trauma, familial trauma, personal trauma. And I wanted to share that for me in my life, what I've experienced is that the way to deal with trauma is to actually learn to let it go. Now, that may sound impossible. I come from a background of psychology. I was in the midst of getting a PhD in psychology when I came to India 26 years ago. I have a psych degree from Stanford. I mean, I've got all of the basis, both as a recipient of it, as well as a provider of it, as well as an academic researcher of it, of all of the psychological processes. And they're beautiful. And they help us in so many ways. And yet, they don't actually bring us freedom. They help us look at it. They help us see it. They may help us gain insight. But what I found in my life was insight didn't lead to freedom. Insight led to what I was told, both directly and indirectly, which is that the highest goal you can have for yourself is to be able to manage your pain. Go to therapy, do your work, and you will be able to manage your anger, your pain, your depression, your suffering, your addiction, your fears. You will learn to manage them. No one ever told me, by the way, you actually can be free. So when I was 25, by the time I came to India, I had gotten to a point after suffering quite a great deal in adolescence and early 20s from not being able to manage the repercussions of trauma, not being able to manage the emotions, not being able to manage the addiction, not being able to manage life. I had gotten to a point where I was managing it great, had everything under control. My academic work, my relationships, my emotions, everything, I was managing it. But I had a death grip on life. It was the only way to manage things. Was to have this death grip on making sure that everything went exactly according to the way that It had to, so I could manage it. The idea that I could actually let go was something I thought was impossible. I thought that if I let go, I would no longer be able to manage things. And it wasn't until I came here, having no idea that I was on a spiritual quest, thinking I was just on a 3-month adventure with a backpack, thinking that I had come here only because I really liked the food. And when I finally met Pujya Swamiji, my guru, and he said to me, let it go. Let it go. He said, are you going to carry this to the grave? Now I was 25. I said, of course not. He said, so are you going to let this go on your deathbed? Because I had told him, I had given him my story, my trauma, my pain, my suffering. He said, so are you going to let it go on your deathbed? How about a week before you die? How about a month before you die? And I was like, God, no, I'm only 25. And he looked at me and he said, you're waiting for someone to draw the line. You're waiting for someone to come in and say, you can be done. You can be free. He said, no one will. He said, it's up to you. You can carry this pain, this anger, this trauma, this story to your grave. You can let it go on your deathbed. You can let it go a month or a week before you die. Or you can let it go tonight. And I was like, tonight? And he said, yes, we have this very beautiful ceremony called the Arti. And he said, after the Arti, I want you to stand in Ganga. And I want you to hold water from Ganga in your hands. And I want you to offer into that water all of your pain, all of your anger. And I want you to let it go. And to make a very long and very beautiful story very short, what I can tell you is it worked. I didn't think it would work. I thought there was no chance in a million years it would work. I came from a background in which there's a process, and it's a long process, and there's sub-processes. And even after you've undergone the processes, you still have it with you. It's sort of your identity that it'll always be, as I had been told, this thing on my shoulder. And every time there was stress or every time there was anything, this was what was going to come back and get me. And what I can tell you 26 years later is it worked. It actually worked. And I share that with you because a lot of times when we've experienced trauma, we feel like we are bound to it for eternity. Certainly this life, even next life, even the life after. I mean, we feel like it is a karmic bond that we have with this trauma. And I wanted to make sure to let you know that that isn't necessarily true. That you actually can let it go. And one of the most beautiful things about tension in a karmic bond is it only requires one end to let go. If you and I are both holding opposite ends of a cord and we're each pulling, and there's a lot, therefore, of tension in that cord, we don't actually have to both let go for the tension to go away. Only one of us does. One person lets go and 100% of the tension in that cord is gone. If I let go of that cord, even if you keep pulling it, the tension is gone. And so you're here in a very sacred place. You're here in a land in which Mother Ganga flows as the bringer of freedom. And that includes freedom from trauma. And I'm not saying it's easy, but it is simple. As long as we are prepared to let go of the identification as the one who was traumatized. That's the key. Am I prepared, and this goes back to the surrender in the faith, am I prepared to trust fall into the universe, not knowing who I will be if I am not the victim of this or the survivor of that or the one struggling with this or the one addicted to that? If I'm not that identity, then who am I? And that ability with faith to just trust fall into the unknown universe, knowing you will be caught, you will be held, you will be nourished, you will be nurtured. Who you are will emerge, and you don't have to hold on to the trauma anymore. You actually can be the one to let it go. And I say this only because I've experienced it personally and because I've been witness to so many other people experiencing it personally as well.
Namaskaram.
Namaskar.
You said that to see God, go inside. Go inside. Going inside, we need the right key. Otherwise, we cannot go inside. It's easy for you to go inside, but not for us who are more in the worldly things. I have tried yoga and some kriyas. For that moment, I was happy and quiet, but again, the same.
Okay. How do we go inside? Well, first of all, I want to just address it's easy for you, but it's not easy for the rest of us piece of this. I'm not cut from some different cloth. I wasn't born from some different mold. I come from a world very much like the world that most of you come from. My world had a lot of privilege, a lot of opportunity, a lot of prosperity, a lot of blessings, and also a lot of struggle and a lot of conflict and even trauma. As we all have our own mix of the privilege, the opportunity, the blessings, and the struggles. But I'm very, very well acquainted with anger, pain, fear, anxiety, depression, addiction, all of the things that we think prevent us from experiencing what I also know, which is freedom and joy and bliss and peace or realization. And if I can do it, so can you. So that's very important. It doesn't do anybody any good for you to sit over there holding me at an arm's length and saying, well, she can do it because Clearly, she's cut from some different type of cloth than we are. And, I'm not. What it requires is actually being prepared, being willing to let go of that which is holding you back. You can't go in because you don't want to see what's there. I mean, inside it's us, it's not outer space. What keeps us from seeing the inside of ourselves? To go to outer space, you need a telescope or a rocket ship or, some other type of device. To go in, you don't need anything. What is it that keeps you from going in? It's your own ego self that is holding you back because it doesn't want to see what is there. We are very attached to the stories we tell ourselves about ourselves. This is who I am. This is what I'm like. And when we actually go in and we see the truth, it dissolves all those stories. Now, on the one hand, that's blissful and beautiful. But on the other hand, it's very scary because a lot of us use our stories as crutches, as excuses. Why are you not stepping up to the full plate of your life? Why are you not courageous and creative and connected and sharing love? And, because this happened to me when I was a kid, or I'm stuck in this relationship, or this or that or this. We use these stories as crutches to excuse ourselves from not actually stepping up to the plate of our own life. And if I'm really going to go within, I've got to be prepared to let go of that. And that's scary to the ego because the ego loves a good story. And to let go of the story, to let go of the identity. I had a great story. It was a great story with lots of great reasons why I had trouble with fear and anxiety and anger and depression and addiction. I mean, it was a great story. People would say, oh, ready-made crutch. You don't want to step up to the plate of your life? No problem. Here's a story for you. You can use it your whole life. But by God's grace, I was given the opportunity to actually let it go. When you go within, you've got to be prepared to let go of what's keeping you out. I think about kids. If you've ever been in a public swimming pool, at a hotel, at a YMCA, wherever you may be, what you see a lot are there'll be a little kid, some toddler in floaties on their arms, right on the edge of the pool. And inside the pool, the mom or dad is saying, jump, right? And they're holding their hands up, jump. And the kid is terrified, running back and forth on the edge of the pool, going, ah, 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 ah. And in the pool, they're saying, jump. And the kid's going, ah, ah, ah. And finally, they jump. And of course, the mom or the dad catches them. And then they squeal with delight, right? And then they say, again. But it takes that first jump. And the only way to jump is when we have faith in the arms we're jumping into. The kid would not jump into the arms of a stranger. He or she finally jumps because it's mom or dad saying, come on, I'll catch you. And this is where that faith in the divine, in spirit, in source, that's where it's so important. Because in order to really go within, you've got to let go of all of that which you think you know. But if you don't let go of it, it's going to keep you stuck forever. It may be a golden cage, but it's a cage nonetheless. And so you have to go in with this full preparedness to be shown a truth that just blasts away everything you ever thought was true about who you are, about what the universe is, about your connection to the universe. It'll happen for you. Cultivate that faith.
You were talking about letting go, which made sense with the story you told us from the Ramayana. But how do you do it on a daily basis when you notice injustices that other people are committing and you have a sense of wanting to actually fix it? A lot of people want to do good, but sometimes trying to do good may end up doing wrong for you and others.
Beautiful. So it's really important to realize that letting go does not mean you become complacent. It doesn't mean you become lazy. It doesn't mean you become a doormat. Our dharma here on earth is to be channels of the divine flow, of the presence of the divine. Now, each of us is going to do that in different ways. Even during the course of our lives, we have the opportunity to do that so many different times in so many different ways. Letting go of attachment does not mean that I don't stand up and fight injustice. But what it means is I don't lose myself in it. See, if I'm devastated, I'm angry, I'm hurt, I'm suffering, so I can't eat or sleep, I'm not going to be a very good vehicle or vessel. I'll tell you a personal story. When I first came to India, I had been here, I don't know, 6, 7 months, something like that. Very, very beginning. Pujya Swamiji took me to see a group of schools, 10, 11 schools in a huge slum outside of Delhi, where they wanted him to adopt the schools. They were tiny, tiny little slum schools that had originally been run by some trust. The trust no longer had money. They wanted Pujya Swamiji to adopt them. So he said to me, do you want to go see them? And yes. I've always been very committed to children and loving children and wanting to serve children. So we spend the day going to look at all of these slums, all of these schools, all of these kids, and it was heartbreaking. And we get back to our ashram in Delhi, and I'm sobbing. I mean, I can't catch my breath. And it's dinner time, and I say, I can't eat dinner. And he looks at me and he says, are your tears helping anyone? And I said, no, but oh my God, how can I eat dinner? Because, oh my God, these kids. And he said to me, your tears are only helping your ego. Your tears are making you feel like, wow, I'm such a compassionate person. Wow, look, I can't eat, I can't sleep because my heart is broken because of these kids. He said, but they're not actually being helped by your tears. He said, if you actually want to help the children, eat your dinner, go to sleep, And get up at 5 o'clock tomorrow morning and start figuring out how you're going to raise the money to sponsor all 10 of these schools. And this is the teaching. So it's not that we let go in a way that we say, oh, okay, no problem. Let injustice happen, no problem. Let kids starve, no problem. Let the earth be ruined, no problem. Let women be subjugated, no problem. Nobody's saying that. What we're saying is, help me to let go of my over-identification with my personal drama in my life and as it pertains to the present moment and whatever injustice I'm seeing, so that I actually can be a useful channel. My over-identification from my own story, from my own life, since I had suffered as a child. I was being, in my own mind, victimized all over again, and it was me, and oh my God, useless as far as helping these kids is concerned. What really needed to happen was for me to work through and let go of my own pain so that I could actually become a channel, a vehicle of real assistance for these children. So yes, we are all called upon to bring back justice where there is injustice, to bring light to the darkness, to heal wrongs. But the only way we're going to do it is when we've let go first of our own internal ego agenda. Otherwise, we're so stuck in our own stories, so stuck in our own ego drama that we're not actually able to help another. And so that's what it's about.
Taking it to the next level from personal trauma release, the question is, nations perhaps also have trauma, in races have trauma based on the histories that they have endured. And we are at a moment in time where we cannot move towards world union and human unity until we are able to let go the trauma of our collective stories, the oppressors, the oppressed, the colonizer, the colonized. And we are seeing that in India, across the world. This is the great work of our time, right? How are we going to collectively be able to let go the trauma and yet fight the good fight that Arjuna is told by Krishna?
Beautiful. So it's a really delicate and also sacred balance between acknowledgement of the trauma that I carry, both individually as well as on behalf of my race, my religion, my gender, my color, on the one hand, and the awareness that I, the truth of who I am, has no gender, has no color, has no race, has no religion. Because this particular body I am in this time around is just one of the many bodies I have taken. And so let's say that this body I am in is in the body of one whose culture was oppressed. So let's say I am in the body this time of someone in India who has been colonized. And there is a trauma, a cultural trauma of having been colonized and oppressed. But if I get out of my body and I get into the soul, it is highly unlikely that at some point in the history of my soul, I have not also occupied the body of an oppressor, of a colonizer. If I, in this body, am of the color or of the race or of the religion who has done the oppressing, who has been the perpetrator of violence, it is highly unlikely that at some point in the history of the journey of my soul that I have not also been in the body of one who was oppressed, suppressed, colonized. And so I think what's really important these days is that we find that sacred balance, because dividing ourselves into camps isn't actually the highest goal for healing. And what we really need is a place in which there is embodiment of, acknowledgement of the injustice that has been done, the trauma that has been wrought upon colors, cultures, races, religions, genders, while simultaneously realizing that that isn't the highest truth of who I am. And it's delicate. I wrote an article right in the height of the Me Too movement from a personal perspective that was titled something like Me Too and Om Brahm. This meditation between the awareness that, yes, I too, in this body, in this very life, not even in previous lives, have been subjected to that trauma, that violence. And the truth of who I am isn't the body. The truth of who I am is untouched, unharmed, unabused, untouchable, unharmable, unabusable, genderless, genderful, inseparable from the physical body of the one who wrought that harm onto me. And there is trauma in my energetic field and in my body. And that energy is one with the flowers that are opening their petals to greet the sun, one with the energy of the enlightened masters, one with the energy of the waters of Mother Ganga, inseparable. And it was an article that was this meditation of a gentle pendulum swinging different aspects of truth. And I think that this is where we need to go, is not a dismissal by any means of very real, very unjust, very traumatic injustice that has been done, and the very real need for reparations and for change in society, while simultaneously On our deep spiritual level, we develop an ability to access the highest truth of ourselves, which is of no color, of no gender, of no race, of no religion. As Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, which cannot be burned by fire, cannot be cut by knives, cannot be wet with water, cannot be dried by the wind. If knives can't cut it and fire can't burn it and water can't wet it, what's to say what one other human being could do to it, right? It's unable to be touched, unable to be harmed, unable to be changed. And to be able to hold space, again, it's not either or, it's yes and. To be able to hold space in our consciousness for both. Because otherwise we get stuck in our roles, oppressor, oppressed, victim, victimizer. I am holding the trauma of the one who has been abused. Therefore, in order for me to heal, I need you to make reparations. We'll ask any abuse survivor how well that's ever worked for them. Doesn't happen. And interestingly, even for those for whom it does happen, where you actually get someone decades later to finally own up to what they did and say sorry, the tragic secret is it's not actually enough. Because that pain has gone so deep that nothing anyone, even the abuser, actually ever says to us fills the hole that we have lived with. And so we have to get out of that sense of needing anything from anyone in order to heal, in order to be whole. You know, the root of the word health is actually the same root as the word whole, W-H-O-L-E. In order to be truly healthy, we have to have an experience of being whole. And that wholeness is not something that's going to come to me because someone else has made reparations or someone else has apologized. It's something that's going to only come from within. And as societies, as cultures, as civilizations, as races, as religions, as colors, just because my apology isn't going to fill your hole doesn't absolve me from the need of doing it. Because if I'm carrying the karma of the abuser, I need to make those reparations for my own karmic journey. Not because you need me to. Not because your wholeness depends on it, but because my wholeness depends on it. And so I think the deepest level of healing, on the deepest soul level, is each of us recognizing that we hold within us karmic energy of both the oppressed and the oppressor, the victim and the victimizer, the colonized, the colonizer. And depending on the current body we're in, the current race, religion, gender we represent in this particular body, we take on the role of making reparations, of making amends. From that sense of collective karma. We play that role as part of our dharma in this lifetime. But it's also lastly important to realize that a lot of that work is actually about moving forward rather than just healing the past. until and unless those who represent the races, the religions, the colors, the genders of the oppressors do not acknowledge, own, and do whatever they can to make amends for it, we run the risk of it happening again. We run the risk of thinking it's okay if we do not hold people to their dharma as a representative. We're not saying you are the bad person. Oh, you happen to be white. Oh, you happen to be British. Oh, you happen to be a man. Oh, you happen to be Christian. Therefore, you are the problem. No. And you have an opportunity as a representative of a race, of a religion, of a color, of a gender that throughout history has wrought oppression. Not you personally. But if you can embrace this opportunity, you can help bring about a collective source of healing for others and ensure that others who are in this particular lifetime of that race, of that religion, of that color, of that gender, do not think under any circumstance that what happened in the past was okay. And that's why it's so important also, is to prevent this kind of stuff from happening in the future. What a joy to spend this time together. We will have so much more time over the coming days. If you have questions that we didn't have a chance to get to today or that arise in your mind as you walk out of here and you think, oh, I should have asked, don't worry. We'll be together in the evening after the Aarti in satsang again. We'll have more opportunities to be together, and just allow yourself in every minute and every moment to soak up the healing power here for your individual body, psyche, karmic journey of this lifetime, and also for all of that which each of us embodies and holds and represents. Beautiful. Beautiful. So much love to you all.